Russia is giving Iran intel to target U.S. forces, according to officials. This is the first indication that this war is involving greater powers on the Iranian side and is a major deal for the war becoming even more dangerous for the United States. According to the Washington Post, Russia is providing targeting information to attack the U.S. forces. According to someone who has access to this intelligence, actually according to three officials, they've apparently been passing on locations of U.S. military assets, including warships, aircraft, and it seems like a pretty comprehensive effort. Quote, the Iranian regime is absolutely being crushed, said a White House spokesperson, but the CIA and Pentagon declined to comment on this. Iran possesses only a handful of military satellites, so it doesn't have its own constellation, and Russia's able to provide that.
He was asked about negotiations with the United States. He said there is no reason why Iran should negotiate with Washington because Washington cannot be trusted. He said Iran went to the table in good faith in Oman and in Geneva. Iran made concessions. And the United States launched a war anyway. He was then asked whether Iran was afraid of a U.S. ground invasion. He struck a tone that carried no fear. He said Iran is confident it could counter any ground operation by American forces. He said Iran has been preparing for this scenario for years. He said the IRGC and Iran's ground forces are ready. These are remarkable statements to make publicly when your country's military has been under sustained bombing for 7 days. But Araghchi is making a specific argument that is aimed at multiple audiences simultaneously. For the Iranian people, he is projecting resilience and defiance to maintain morale. For the international community, he is framing Iran as the aggrieved party that came to the table and was attacked anyway. And for Washington, he is drawing a red line. If you send ground troops, this becomes something much worse. Trump has not explicitly said ground troops are coming, but Defense Secretary Hegseth explicitly refused to take ground troops off the table when asked by reporters. And with the Senate having rejected the War Powers Resolution and the House having done the same, there is no congressional mechanism to prevent a ground escalation if Trump decides to order one. The gap between Araghchi's defiance and the reality of Iran's military situation is significant. Iran's air force is gone. Its navy is gone. Its missile stockpile is depleted by more than 80% compared to day one. Its senior military commanders are dead. Its supreme leader is dead. Its succession building was bombed. If American ground forces entered Iran, they would not be facing the military that existed a week ago. They would be facing whatever is left of the IRGC, dispersed, decentralized, operating on old general instructions according to Iran's own foreign ministry, and fighting on home territory. That last part matters. History has shown repeatedly that conventional military superiority does not guarantee victory against a dispersed force fighting on its own soil among its own population. Let us talk about what the oil situation looks like on day 7, because the economic pressure of this war is building in ways that will affect every person watching this video regardless of where they live. Brent crude closed at $82.76 per barrel on Wednesday, extending 4 straight days of gains. It is hovering near its highest level since January 2025. The White House press secretary, when asked for a timeline on when the Strait of Hormuz would reopen, said she could not commit to a timeline. She said both the Department of War and the Department of Energy are monitoring the situation actively. She said if and when necessary, the U.S. Navy will escort oil tankers through the strait. The phrase if and when necessary is doing a lot of work in that sentence. The strait has effectively been at a standstill for 7 days. 150 tankers are still anchored in open water. The Ras Tanura refinery, the largest in the Saudi Aramco system, caught fire from an Iranian drone strike and was forced into partial shutdown. Qatar's LNG exports, which heat homes across Europe, Japan, and South Korea, remain stuck. Every day this continues, the energy markets price in more risk. Lloyd's of London, the global hub for maritime insurance, confirmed it is in discussions with the Trump administration after Trump announced that the U.S. government would offer political risk insurance and financial guarantees for maritime trade in the Gulf. This is an extraordinary step. The U.S. government effectively trying to backstop the global insurance market because the commercial market has repriced the risk of sailing through the Gulf as prohibitively high. When the U.S. government has to offer war risk insurance to get oil tankers moving, you understand how far outside normal this situation has become. In the United States, gas prices rose 12 cents in a single day last Monday, the biggest spike in 4 years. Analysts say they do not expect $4 gas nationally in the immediate term, but that assessment assumes the conflict does not dramatically escalate. And the defense secretary just said, just wait. There is a human story in this war that I want to make sure we do not lose in all the military and strategic analysis. ACLED, the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, reported that the human rights organization Hengao estimated at least 2,400 people have been killed inside Iran in the first 6 days of this war. 2,400. That number includes Supreme Leader Khamenei and senior military figures, but it also includes hundreds of civilians. It includes 165 schoolgirls in Manab. It includes the residents of apartment complexes in Tehran, whose buildings were struck. It includes Khamenei's wife, who died of injuries sustained in the opening strike. The 500,000 people who fled Beirut on Thursday night are not a statistic. They are families. They are children. They are elderly people who cannot move quickly. They are people who had already lost everything once and were building it back. And on Thursday night, they were running barefoot in the dark again. More than 9,000 Americans have left the Middle East under the State Department's evacuation advisory. The first chartered flight of stranded American citizens landed at Dulles International Airport near Washington on Thursday afternoon. There were emotional reunions at the terminal. People who had been trying for days to reach a helpline, waiting in hotels near bombed airports, were finally home. Japan confirmed 2 of its citizens are being held inside Iran and demanded their release. Tens of thousands of European nationals remain stranded across the region. The Dubai and Abu Dhabi airports, the world's busiest international transits, are closed. More than 1 million passengers cannot get home. So what happens next? Here is what we know for certain and what we are watching for. On the military side, the U.S. has announced new capabilities are being deployed. Israel has announced it is moving to the next phase. Both mean more strikes deeper into Iranian and Lebanese territory, using weapons and tactics we have not seen yet. Hegseth said accelerating, not decelerating. The general said expanding inland, striking progressively deeper. On the diplomatic side, Iran says no ceasefire and no negotiations. The U.S. Senate and House have both rejected efforts to constrain Trump's war authority. There is no international body with the power to impose a ceasefire that any of the parties would accept. China and Russia are calling for it. The UN is calling for it. Nobody with a bomb is listening. On the political side, the biggest wild card is public opinion inside the United States. A CBS News poll found most Americans disapprove of this war and think the administration has not clearly explained its goals. But that disapproval has not yet translated into the kind of political pressure that changes behavior in Washington. The midterm elections are still more than 2 years away. Trump has the Senate. He has the House. He has the military. And his defense secretary just said, just wait. The people of Beirut are already running. The people of Tehran are already in shelters. The people of the Gulf are watching their oil refineries burn and their airports stay dark. And somewhere in the mountains of western Iran, Kurdish fighters armed by the CIA are moving deeper into territory that the Islamic Republic has held for 47 years. This war entered a new phase on day 7. The evacuation of 500,000 people from Beirut was not the beginning of that phase. It was the announcement of it. Day 8 is already underway. I will be here covering it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next development could come within hours, and when it does,
890 million. Can't simply say you were wrong. And I will repeat, as I always have, even though y'all hate me, denouncing Donald Trump and this administration does not magically turn you into a mythical lib. You can remain Republican and conservative, and we can still disagree about shit. And we will. But the MAGA movement is and always was a foreign-funded psyop to get you to not only want to harm me, but harm yourselves. Remember when that flag stood for freedom? All you gotta do is reach out and admit it.
We have officially hit day 7, and even Ukraine is now getting involved. So here's everything you need to know. Firstly, 1 week in, both sides are refusing to back down. Trump said this morning there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, while Iran's foreign minister said,
"There is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the US from us."
This is all while the US and Israel have come out and said that they are moving into a new phase of their war. And residents in Iran say that last night's bombing was the worst night so far. In fact, Pete Hegseth just suggested the longest duration of the war so far, up to 8 weeks, doubling the initial 4. And that is going to get expensive, because according to a think tank based in Washington, D.C., the war is costing US taxpayers about $891 million per day. So if it does last that 8 weeks at the current cost rate, that's about $50 billion in 2 months. Also, in a surprising update, Zelensky confirmed last night that the US and other countries have asked Ukraine to get involved with helping counter Iranian drones. Zelensky accepted. Over in the UK, the Met Police arrested 4 men in a counter-terrorism operation relating to Iran, and also updated their travel advice for Cyprus, warning that the risk of a terrorist attack cannot be ruled out. Speaking of which, Trump acknowledged for the first time that there is a possibility of retaliatory attacks on US soil. In an interview with Time magazine, he said, "I guess. We think about it all the time, we plan for it. Like I said, when you go to war, some people will die." He also told Axios in a separate interview that he needs to be personally involved in selecting Iran's next supreme leader. And finally, rounding it out with one of the craziest images taken by Reuters today, showing a commercial plane flying above missile strikes as they hit the ground. See you all tomorrow.
The US confirming that after Iran, it's going after Cuba. Cuba's going to fall pretty soon, President Trump told CNN. They want to make a deal so badly. So how's it going to work? Well, he says, I'm going to put Marco Rubio over there and we'll see how that works out. We're really focused on this one right now. We've got plenty of time, but Cuba's ready after 50 years, President Trump said. And it's fallen right into my lap because of me. So the day before, Trump said at the White House that it's only a question of time before American Cubans can return to their home country, appearing to say that it is next on the administration's agenda after going to war in Iran. We could do them all at the same time, President Trump said, but bad things happen. If you watch countries over the years, you do them all too fast and bad things happen. So there's a process here. According to the president, he'll deal with Iran, then he's going to move on to Cuba, which currently is suffering after it's lost support of Venezuela after the US took out the president there.
More bad news about Trump's war with Iran as he is sucking all of us into World War III. Russia is now confirmed to be helping Iran. They are helping track U.S. service members in the region. That's right. Russian intelligence is providing intel on where our troops are moving, how Iran should calculate their attacks against our service members. Now, also, China is considering getting involved. In fact, they're already planning on sending military equipment to Iran, and they are helping Iran move vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. They are making sure that Iranian ships are protected in the region. So now we see a new axis of power working together between Russia, China, and Iran. Sounds familiar to World War II, right? And by the way, we all saw this coming from a mile away. The American people knew this would happen. Why? Because Russia is allied with Iran, because China and Russia are allied, because all three of these nations respect each other, they're working together. So I'm surprised that the Trump administration didn't see this one through. Just kidding, I'm not. But here's the problem. We shouldn't have to figure these things out. This is not our job. It should be our leaders who should know, hey, if you bomb Iran, you are potentially going to start a major world war because they are directly working with our top adversaries, the people that you always claim are our number one enemies. Well, you know what? Maybe China's right. Maybe China's winning. And honestly, maybe they're going to win this war because they might not have as big of a military as us, but at least their country isn't being run by absolute morons.
Well, happy Friday to you, because it's not going good for the U.S. in its war against Iran. What you see here on your screen, one of several tankers that have been hit in the Strait of Hormuz, which transits 25% of the world's oil and tons of the world's natural gas. And you have to understand, this is Iran effectuating its strategy of causing economic damage and making it so painful that we have to stop. Their neighborhood, the Persian Gulf, is like a chandelier of the most expensive, fragile, and impactful targets on the entire planet. Oil terminals, hotels, resort cities, tank farms, you name it. And this shows right here, 34% jump in the cost of oil in 1 week. That is the greatest jump in a week that we've had since 1982. And look what Qatar says is about to happen. Literally, one of our allies is claiming that if this war goes on for even a few weeks, it could, quote, bring down the economies of the entire world. You're talking about natural gas prices going up 400%. You're talking about production being shut off within a matter of days. This is a huge problem, and we clearly didn't plan for it because we don't have the ships in the Strait of Hormuz right now in place to escort people along. And even if we could, look at Operation Earnest Will. In the past, it's been incredibly difficult. I don't know if we can even get that mission accomplished. So here we are. Iran's effectuating a strategy. They are far from done, and you need to measure this conflict differently. They're causing economic damage, knowing they can survive behind 14,000-foot mountains, and they're not going to get invaded. Watch out.